So I'm the founder of a company called Lakeview Aquatic Consultants. Left municipal recreation about a year and a half ago, and I founded my own business 3 years ago. But it was so successful part time that I switched to it full time. And
Okay.
so what we do is like consulting, teaching, mentoring, different work in the aquatics industry in Canada. So we're located near Calgary, Alberta, Canada, which is north of Montana.
Okay, now with that, do you do like, let's say, like lifeguard trainings, that kind of stuff, or like swim lesson trainings? Because I know for us, we have lifeguard trainings through a couple different companies, and then we also have different like swim instructor trainings as well.
Exactly. So my business, Lakeview Aquatic Consultants, we hold what's called affiliations in Canada with the Canadian Red Cross, the Life Saving Society, the Pool and Hot Tub Alliance. And so we can provide programs in different streams, but I primarily focus on the instructor level training courses. So I
Okay.
can teach swimming lessons, but mostly facilities will hire me and they say, we need 3 lifeguard instructors on staff, or we need 4
Gotcha.
first aid instructors. So I'll do
Okay.
the training course for those higher level classes, or certified pool operator classes is another big one that we do.
Okay.
That's the requirement to run a commercial pool.
So you've been in this position for about 3 years, you said. So you started out part-time, correct?
Yep. So before that, I was an aquatic facility manager for a town of 12,000 people. And so I was doing that full time, and I was doing my business on the side, like a lot of recreation people who might also teach fitness or take private clients for coaching. I did
Right.
this on the side, and it just got so busy that about a year and a half ago, I switched to doing this full time.
So you said you're in Alberta.
Yeah, so province of Alberta. I'm near Calgary, which is the southern city, and then I teach in the province of Alberta, but I also teach in a couple of other Canadian provinces. Like I do travel
Okay.
to teach in Ontario, Manitoba, and Newfoundland. So, and then I've also done consulting, like especially during COVID, I've done
Mhm.
consulting with people all over remotely, and even online booking webinars or training sessions. I mean, I've had inquiries from places in the US. It's just
Right.
whomever is interested, right?
So what is your degree in?
So my degree is totally unrelated. So I have a bachelor's degree in religious studies and I have a master's degree in religious studies.
So what made you want to go into Parks and Rec then, and like aquatics and that kind of stuff?
So I started out like a lot of people. I thought it was just going to be during my undergrad, right? So I was
Mhm.
lifeguard all during college, and
Okay.
then when I took a year off for graduate or a gap year, and then I did graduate school, and then after graduate school, it was 2011, so the economy was still pretty bad in Canada, like
Mhm.
after 2008 with the financial crash, and so
Mhm.
there was almost no jobs what I was looking for was like community support and kind of social work and things like that. There weren't any jobs, but my college, the University of Toronto, they were hiring for a full time pool supervisor, and I had a degree. Right, that was the minimum requirement, and I had the
Right.
experience. So I thought, oh, I'll do this temporarily, and then I just kind of stuck with it because the opportunities, both financially and professionally, were awesome.
Do you have any other like certifications in addition to your degree?
Yeah, so I hold all of the trainer certifications for the different programs that I teach. So, for example, National Lifeguard Instructor Trainer, First Aid Instructor Trainer. I'm a certified pool operator instructor. So, all of those aquatic certifications I have. And then
Mhm.
I've also done in Canada, we have the Canadian Parks and Recreation Association, the
Okay.
CPRA. I didn't achieve the CPRA certificate, but I did, uh, you know, 3/4 of the coursework for their
Okay.
professional recreation designation. It's
Okay.
similar to an RPA. So I worked on that kind of on the side. But um, for us in Canada, there are programs where you can get degrees or certificates, but it's not really required. If you have some education, that will tick the box for jobs.
So what like does your job entail? So you said that you do a lot of the trainings and everything. Is there anything else other than that?
Yeah, I do a lot of everything. So I like to say that I'm the problem solver and I address your pain points. So I do everything from like professional hand holding, right? So when people need help with either different ideas they're stuck on or getting their manager to understand how to create a proposal, how to do a new program. So in my day-to-day work, it could be emailing with clients, talking with clients on the phone. So yesterday, for example, somebody was asking me about an issue with a water slide, and so I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't address it, but I referred them to someone else. Or getting text messages from former certified pool operator students, they're having water quality issues. Where can
Okay.
they find resources online, either from me, from other organizations? What is the regulation of the policies on different documents? So
Mm-hmm.
I do day to day, I do lots of things on Facebook, Instagram, and our website, like creating that content and that information so people can find what they need. Then it's a lot of phone calls, emails, texts when I'm not teaching. And then also basic admin, like any rec person would have to do, like budget management, and
Mm-hmm.
then like process, business admin. But every day is pretty different. When I'm teaching, it's, you know, an 8 hour day of teaching and then emails. And then when I'm not teaching, it's everything else.
So, before the COVID-19 virus came about, I don't know when it really hit you guys for sure.
So it was probably back, it was early in Canada, March 15th, if that was the
Oh,
Monday or the Sunday. They closed all of the municipal pools in
okay.
Alberta, where I live.
That's
Like,
that's when
very
ours all closed, yeah. And so how has it changed? Like, what were you doing before versus what you're doing now?
Okay, so before COVID, March was going to be kind of quiet for me because our swimming pool season in Canada starts kind of in May. And so I would be doing a lot of training in April and May for the summer. And so March was going to be kind of quiet. And then March, just once COVID hit, March became like so incredibly busy. Like I was spending 12, 14 hours a day on the phone, probably for the first 2 weeks. My husband joked it was like a telethon because I had so many clients that they didn't know
Yeah.
what to do in terms of like, do we drain our pool? Do we close the pool? What is the regulation? Different provinces were doing different things. So my
Mm-hmm.
province closed the bigger pools, but then if you were a hotel with a small pool, those didn't initially close, but I was still recommending to clients like that. That's still, just because you are under the 50-person capacity, I don't
Mm-hmm.
recommend like naked kids swimming together in a public
Right.
pool.
Mm-hmm.
So initially I was super, super busy. And then with very different work, like the client, like I said, in the nice way, professional hand holding support. What do you need? Where to look? Who to talk to?
Mm-hmm.
And then I had this idea to do these webinars. And so the webinars took over my life because from March 23rd until May 22nd, I
Mm-hmm.
did webinars a week. And
Okay.
so for each webinar, I was booking presenters and, as you know, like emails and coordinating and
Mm-hmm.
questions, follow up and website notes. And so those webinars just finished last week. And so now for the next month or two before pools reopen in Canada, I'm doing online training. So I am doing 1 or 2 courses a month and then still providing a lot of support to my pool clients as they're trying to figure out what will that look like when we reopen? Will
Mm-hmm.
lifeguards wear masks? Will we have to reduce our occupancy? Will we have to clean more? Will
Right.
people swimming lessons? Will they only want private lessons? Right? It's a lot of planning and we don't know what we're going to use.
So do you have a date that your pools are allowed to be opened back up, or are you just kind of playing it by ear?
Yeah, so currently pools are in phase 3 for us in Alberta, and we are
Okay.
still in phase 1. Phase 1
Okay.
hasn't ended. The numbers are pretty good. Like I think yesterday we only had 19 cases, new cases in a
Mm-hmm.
province of like 1.5 million. So that was really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I would anticipate the earliest most pools in Canada, well, in my part of Canada, will open is end of July, early August. We're
Okay.
taking this very, very seriously. And I just don't think, even if we're allowed to open, I think people are going to be very hesitant to attend, to
Right.
work at pools. It's not just going to be open one day after being closed the previous day.
Yeah, I was wondering like when you guys would be able to open the pools and everything like that. Because I mean, our fitness centers, like I said, are open, but our pools aren't open yet. So, and they're not for sure how they're going to be able to open them what regulations. I mean, we've already increased our cleaning a lot. Changed ways of patrons aren't just the ones doing the cleaning of the equipment.
Right.
Staff are now cleaning all equipment after like a patron gets done with it, as opposed to we would go around and we'd have other stuff to set up like pickleball or basketball, fitness classes to set up. Now the instructors are really in charge of that. So we weren't essentially deep cleaning after every single time a patron got on a machine or something along those lines. We used weights.
Because they can't really do anything else, right? So like I said in a session, I did a conference session about 2 weeks ago, and I said to people, you know, when we think of lifeguards cleaning, let's say windows or mirrors between shifts rotating, if they don't clean the mirror, it's not the end of the world. But if you have to clean between patrons or lockers, like you're literally need a surplus of staff, so it's dedicated to cleaning, or you're going to have to say, no, ma'am, you can't come in right now. I haven't sanitized that. So when I went to renew my driver's license a few days ago, I actually had to wait in line until the sanitizing lady went over to the counter area where the previous guy had been. And the teller had said, no, no, don't come over here. She has to come and wipe down like the debit machine and the glass. And so that it only took a minute, right? But if you're imagining in a pool, like equipment or services or doorknobs, like it's so uncertain. And I think that's where there's no reason to be the first one. Why not let private industry a little bit kind of figure it out, because they have to be open. If we don't have to be open, like why not feel it out? Lap swimming, like you said, super easy, like 30-minute increments, one adult per lane, or you know, whatever, you have to book a slot. That's a lot easier than little kids who they like to play together. You might tell them we're staying in our family unit, but they're not going to get it, right? They're going to see their and they're going to run over.
It's a lot more socialization for some of our members, I feel like, which I think is good. Just getting them active for 15, 20 minutes and then coming down and talking with their friends. I feel like that's very beneficial to a lot of our patrons.
Well, it's so good to recognize that, because that was something I was talking to someone else saying that the swimming is only a very small part of it. Like just getting out of the house, going somewhere else, the routine, like you said, or the coffee after the workout, that's more important. And that's the part we're not going to be able to give back, maybe even for 6 months, right? So it's not the workout at all. It's the social part. I mean, you could set up lawn chairs and say, hey guys, sit out in the, you know, parking lot or on the grass or whatever, but it's not what they have in their mind. And the one person I talked to a couple weeks ago, I think she's from Perryville, Missouri. She was saying like she's having a hard time with her staff, like, you know, the older generation that wants to come close and be respectful in a conversation and trying to say like, no, like you need to step back. Or if they won't step back, having the staff member step back and say, yep, no, you know, thank you, Mrs. Smith, but like I'm supposed to stay away from you. And it's not saying that, you know, she's the issue or the lifeguard's the issue. It's just habit for 60, 80 years. You've done one thing, same as shaking hands. Right now we're saying no, like, you know, keep your hands to yourself.
So does your like job vary from like season to season? Do you have like a busier season than others?
Yeah, so it's very similar to the aquatics industry in Canada. So for us, our summer pools would open typically Victoria Day, which is a week before Memorial Day, and then they would close either Labor Day in September or maybe the end of September if they go to weekends only. So for my business, it's very similar to what the pools are doing. So April, May, June is pretty busy getting ready for summer. And then obviously I've only been doing it full time for a year and a half, but normally July and August is dead except for emergencies. So for the staff training side, people are not going to book me unless they have an emergency and something changed at the last minute. They've already trained their staff because they need them to make revenue for the facility in July and August. And then typically I would be busy again September, October, because you know, routines are going back to normal, the end of the budget year. So a lot of our budgets in Canada are calendar year. So people get to September and they go, okay, now I can spend that $8,000 on training. Let's schedule it for October. October has a lot of conferences as well. So you'll see people and they'll go, oh yeah, we've been meaning to do that thing. Let's book it for November.
Mm-hmm.
And then usually about mid-December, December 10th to January 10th, there's not much of anything. Same thing. There's no budget money left. We're moving into Christmas. Unless you're a pool that's very busy between Christmas and back to school in January, I'm not working that much. And then early January, it'll start to pick up, but it is very much kind of like March, April, May, and then September, October, November. The busiest, like for sure the busiest. If there was no COVID, I would have been teaching, like I had 6 classes booked in 3 weeks in May. Like it would have been a very busy, yeah.
So what are some skills that you need to be successful with your job?
So definitely organized. A lot of rec professionals are organized, but you need to be organized and you need to be flexible. So as you know, like recreation doesn't happen 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Recreation happens in the mornings, in the evenings, in the weekends, on holidays. And often during those times, things don't run the way they need to, like something breaks or somebody oversleeps or the delivery doesn't show up. And so organized, flexible, it's good to anticipate problems. So like being good problem solving. If you don't know how, at least learning, okay, what do I need to happen? How can I do it? Right? What, you know, can I run to the dollar store? Can I run to the hardware store? Can I go in the equipment room? What can I substitute? Like just saying, well, it didn't get delivered doesn't help you put on a program with 30 kids, right? Like you need to be fully prepared. When I teach, I've had the power go out. I've had medical emergencies. I've had people not show up due to car crashes. Like I've had equipment missing. So definitely organized, problem solving, good attention to detail, because that avoids a lot of problems that I see. So, you know, what supplies do you need? Where is the location? Did you mean June 22nd, but you wrote July 22nd? And then I have to be really self-motivated. So I'm intrinsically motivated, like I love what I do, but definitely you can't coast in recreation. Like unless you've been doing the same facility for 30 years, right? Like you have to know what trends are happening. What do youth want? What do kids want? What does the community want? And so you can't just keep doing the same thing. You have to say, okay, well, it's COVID right now. Are we doing online swimming lessons? Are we doing online water safety? Are we doing online babysitting? What can we do right now? Because parents are stressed. They have no time. Like they don't have money, so I can't charge a lot of money, but you have to be really adaptable as well and just willing to admit that your idea might be a good idea, but it's not what the clients want. And I see a lot of business owners and rec people struggle with this. Like I might think I have the best idea ever, but if nobody pays for it or nobody shows up, then it doesn't matter, right? I have to switch.
So what is the hardest part about your job?
Probably the hardest part for what I do now is the revenue is very different from when I had a full-time job with a municipality. So it was a good job, good benefits, and so I got paid every 2 weeks exactly what I could anticipate. When you are in business, you have to manage your money very well because it comes and goes. I've lost lots of contracts because people either they got fired, right? Maybe somebody committed to a class and they got removed from their organization, or they switched organizations, or the budget got cut. There's a lot of the revenue is very erratic. You have to just be prepared that you might have a great month and then you might have an awful month. It's like being a real estate agent. But the hardest part is also for me and what I do is just explaining what I do in a way that people understand, because there's not a lot of aquatic consultants, and consultant as a word sometimes has a bad reputation. And so people think like, I'm going to try and sell them something they don't need. And I'm just saying, no, if you knew me before, nothing has changed. I'm still an honest person. I love recreation. I love aquatics. I'm just here to address the problems that you have, like the jobs that you don't have time to work on, or to help find answers, because nothing is worse than when you keep banging your head against a wall with the same problem.
So do you have any other staff that you work with, or are you the only person with this organization?
So right now it's just me. If I have other contracts, like let's say somebody needs a CPR class or they need a first aid instructor class, I do work with subcontractors. So they would teach under the Lakeview Aquatic Consultants brand. And then in the future, we will definitely need an office person, because right now I do it all, which, as you know, is a lot of work for any kind of business. So we would have an admin person who takes care of like our invoicing and our email list and our customer service, because we'll get a lot of, I took a class with you 2 months ago, I can't find my certificate, can you send that to me? A lot of administrative work that needs to get done to kind of keep things moving. But for now, it's just me.
So this could be either this job or your previous job with the Parks and Rec and stuff.
Yes.
If you could go back to when you first got your job, what sorts of like experiences do you wish you would have had? So do you wish you would have had more experience, like let's say in like aquatics or as like a manager?
I think for me, I was very lucky, because when I was still a lifeguard in college, somebody told me, don't pigeonhole yourself in aquatics. And sometimes in aquatics, people get so focused on being the best in aquatics, they don't go and get other experiences.
Right.
So I got experiences in a large recreation center, like helping with a judo tournament, or helping at the towel counter, or helping with the equipment and setup. And so I had more than just aquatics experience. And I feel like that really helped me when I became an aquatic facility manager, because I had empathy and sympathy towards, for example, the facility guy who has to make the ice for the hockey teams, or for the programmer who needs to schedule Zumba, or for the parks people that has people working outside. I see a lot of aquatics professionals, they don't understand other departments, and they're upset people don't understand aquatics, but they also don't make an effort to understand why those departments are different, right? Like I would never tell somebody who's a parks operator who does mowing outside for 8 hours a day, they don't need to a lifeguard, but you need to make that connection so that they understand each other. So I guess I would tell a new recreation person, whatever field they're going to work in, they should not like drill down so deep that they don't see what else is happening, because it's great, passionate about one area, but if you don't understand other areas, you'll never be able to be a manager, because you're going to have to oversee those areas, and B, it's going to make it harder to work with your colleagues when you're so pool focused or ice focused or parks focused, because you're going to treat it like the only part of the department, and it's not.
So I just have one more question. If you could go back and start this career over again, what do you wish someone would have told you before you got started? So I guess for either one.
Yeah, no, I was thinking, but I think I have an answer that works. So let me know if it doesn't. But the answer for me that works is, I was told early on when I finished my college degree that like aquatics is not a real job, or recreation isn't a real job, right? So I probably would have ended up in recreation sooner if I'd given it the credit that it's due, in terms of like how many skill sets you need to have, how much expertise it is, how much of it is a real job. Like I think I avoided being in aquatics for a long time, because like my family or peers, you know, they were looking for like adult jobs, college education jobs, and they didn't see the pool as the real job. And I still experience this when I say, when I was an aquatic facility manager, I had a staff of 30, right? I had a $20 million pool. I had a $1 million budget. That's basically like running a store. That's a business. But because it has a swimming pool with water, people don't think it's a real job. So I just wish more young people knew that aquatics could be a profession. It can be a career. You can do a program like you've done, like certificate or college, and that you can actually find a career as a manager, as a director, as, you know, there's lots of places that need recreation, but it's just not visible beyond those jobs we do in high school and university.